Your muscles do not know your limits. Only your brain does. And the gap between those two things is where every extraordinary physical feat in human history has happened. Every record broken. Every barrier crossed. Every moment where a body did something it was never supposed to be able to do. But to understand how that gap works, you first need to understand what is actually happening inside your body the moment you decide to move. It starts smaller than you can imagine. Inside every single muscle fiber in your body, there is a molecule. A tiny, almost absurdly simple molecule called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. It is the currency of life. Every movement your body makes, blinking, breathing, lifting, sprinting, runs on ATP. Without it, your muscles cannot contract, not even once. Here is how it works. When your brain sends a signal to a muscle, that signal travels down a motor neuron and arrives at the muscle fiber. The fiber responds by releasing stored ATP. The ATP binds to tiny protein structures called myosin heads, the actual physical machinery of muscle contraction. The myosin head uses the energy from ATP to pull on a neighboring protein called actin. That pull shortens the muscle fiber. Millions of fibers shortening at once is what you feel as a muscle contraction. The whole process takes milliseconds, and it requires a constant, uninterrupted supply of ATP. So where does ATP come from? Your body has 3 systems for producing it, and which system it uses depends entirely on how hard and how long you are working. The first system is the phosphocreatine system. This is your body's emergency generator. When you sprint, jump, or lift something maximally heavy, your muscles burn through their stored ATP almost instantly, within 1 to 3 seconds. At that point, a molecule called phosphocreatine donates its phosphate group to ADP, spent ATP, and regenerates it back into usable ATP almost instantaneously. This system is extraordinarily powerful. It is also extraordinarily brief. Within 8 to 10 seconds, your phosphocreatine stores are depleted. This is why no human being can sprint at absolute maximum speed for more than about 10 seconds. Your emergency generator runs out of fuel. The second system is glycolysis. When the phosphocreatine system runs dry, your body switches to burning glucose. Glucose molecules are broken down through a chain of chemical reactions that produce ATP without requiring oxygen. This is anaerobic energy production. It is fast. It sustains high-intensity effort for up to 2 minutes. But it has a cost. The byproduct of anaerobic glycolysis is pyruvate, which converts to lactate. And as lactate accumulates in the muscle, hydrogen ions accumulate alongside it. Those hydrogen ions lower the pH inside the muscle cell. They make the environment more acidic. And that acidity directly interferes with the muscle's ability to contract. The myosin heads begin to malfunction. The force output drops. You feel this as the burning sensation that forces you to slow down or stop. That burning is not weakness. It is chemistry. The third system is oxidative phosphorylation, aerobic energy production. This is the engine that powers everything from a slow jog to a marathon. It uses oxygen to break down glucose, fats, and even protein into ATP with extraordinary efficiency. One glucose molecule processed anaerobically produces 2 ATP. The same glucose molecule processed aerobically produces up to 32 ATP. The trade-off is speed. The aerobic system is powerful but slow to ramp up. It takes your cardiovascular system time to deliver enough oxygen to the working muscles. This is why the first few minutes of any sustained exercise feel hard even for well-trained athletes. The aerobic system has not yet fully engaged. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. None of this, none of the ATP, none of the energy systems, none of the force output, produces permanent strength. Not directly. Strength is not built during the workout. It is built after. When you exercise at high intensity, you are not building muscle. You are destroying it. At the microscopic level, every heavy contraction you perform creates tiny tears in the muscle fibers, specifically in the structural protein lattice inside the fiber called the sarcomera. These are not injuries in the traditional sense. They are controlled damage. Precisely the kind of damage that triggers your body's most powerful adaptation response. Within hours of a training session, your immune system floods the damaged tissue with specialized cells called macrophages. These cells clear the debris from the torn fibers. Simultaneously, dormant cells called satellite cells, muscle stem cells that sit quietly on the outer surface of muscle fibers, are activated. They multiply. They migrate to the damage site. and they fuse with the existing muscle fiber, donating their nuclei to it. Why does that matter? Because muscle fibers need nuclei to produce the proteins required for growth and repair. More nuclei means greater protein synthesis capacity. Greater protein synthesis capacity means the fiber can be rebuilt thicker, denser, and stronger than it was before. This entire process is orchestrated by a cascade of signaling molecules. The most important of these is a protein called mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. When mechanical tension is applied to a muscle fiber during contraction, mTOR is activated. It acts as a master switch, signaling the cell to begin building new structural proteins, specifically actin and myosin, the same proteins responsible for contraction. More actin and myosin means more force production capacity. This is muscle hypertrophy. This is what people mean when they say muscle is built. Not during the session, in the 48 to 72 hours that follow. But strength is not only about muscle size. Here is something most people never consider. In the first several weeks of any new training program, muscle size barely changes at all. Yet strength increases dramatically, sometimes by 30, 40, or even 50%. This is because strength is also a neurological phenomenon. Your brain does not automatically use all of its available motor units when you try to lift something heavy. A motor unit is a motor neuron, and all the muscle fibers it controls. A single muscle can contain hundreds of motor units. But under normal circumstances, your nervous system recruits only a fraction of them, a protective mechanism that prevents you from tearing tendons, fracturing bones, or damaging joints. Training teaches your nervous system to override that protection gradually. More motor units are recruited. They fire more synchronously. The timing between signals improves. The result is that the same muscle, with essentially the same physical size, produces dramatically more force, simply because the brain has learned to use more of what was always there. This is why people in extreme survival situations, a parent lifting a car off a child, a person surviving a fall that should have been fatal, are capable of feats that exceed what training alone can produce. The neurological limiters are temporarily bypassed. The full motor unit pool is recruited. What the body is theoretically capable of and what it normally allows itself to do are not the same number. The ceiling exists, but it is set far higher than most people ever reach. And it moves. Every time you train, every time you recover, every time the satellite cells fuse and the mTOR cascade runs and the nervous system learns a more efficient recruitment pattern, the ceiling shifts upward. There is no fixed limit on human strength. There is only the limit of how many times you are willing to break and rebuild. Your muscles already know this. They have known it since the first time a demand was placed on them. The only thing standing between you and the next version of your body is the chemistry that happens when you put it under pressure, and then give it enough time to answer. Subscribe to learn more facts.